This week, Auditor General Terry Patton released his report into the $6 million of benefits and severance paid to former Nalcor CEO Ed Martin. Now, Patton ruled that when the government questioned Martin's leadership, that amounted to constructive dismissal, and therefore Martin was entitled to his rich settlement and benefits package as outlined in his contract. Now, we asked our listeners if they agreed with that decision. More than 5,500 people voted on the question of the day at VOCM.com. 71% said no. Paul Lane is the independent MHA for Mount Pearl Southlands, and he joins me live this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Fred. How are you this morning?
I'm fine. Thanks for joining us. Now, you posted on social media that you feel this entire exercise was a waste of time and money. Why?
Well, Fred, I believe, look, first of all, I believe it was quite clear to us all, certainly clear to me, that Mr. Martin, while we may not necessarily agree with the lucrative contract that he had, and I certainly don't, the bottom line is that based on the circumstances that were presented, the Premier, it was quite obvious to me that the Premier, the Minister of Natural Resources, wanted Mr. Martin gone. He wasn't prepared to quit, and therefore we know what happened, and basically he's getting what he's entitled to. Now, I think it's ridiculous, and we can certainly speak to about the former administration for putting such a lucrative contract in place. But the bottom line is they wanted them gone, and that's what happened. And I think the whole thing was mishandled. It was mishandled by the Premier, by the Minister of Natural Resources, right from the start. I think that they should have had certainly a closer look, if they didn't already look, and of course that comes into question, but certainly if they didn't, they should have had a closer look at the contract, the implications of what they were saying they were doing, what that was going to mean, and had handled it in a way that if they wanted Mr. Martin gone, that they could have done it hopefully in a way that they wouldn't have had to pay out this severance. But if they had no choice, if that was the only way they could get rid of him was to pay him, they should have been upfront and honest to the people about the fact that they were replacing him, the reasons why they were replacing him, instead of playing these games of he said, she said, who knew what, who had a meeting with who or who didn't, who had phone calls with who or who didn't, and all these other activities like government business taking place on the minister's personal emails and stuff like that.
What further investigations do you think the AG should conduct?
I think there needs to be a full review. I've been calling on the AG for quite some time to do a comprehensive review of Nalcor. I met with him actually on a couple of occasions, and I sort of initiated, I guess, a campaign amongst people to email him and so on. As we know, he has decided, I guess because of a lot of the feedback and public pressure to go into Nalcor, he's in there now. But the problem is that he only has limited resources. We don't know exactly what he's going to look into. I did provide him a list of a number of items that I think should be looked into, things such as we know what happened with Derek and the Liberty report, but I'd like to know, what happened as a result of that. Like, who made the decision not to do maintenance on the equipment? And whoever it was who made these decisions, are they still working for Nalcor? Instead of handing out pink slips, they were handing out corporate bonuses. That's another issue. And of course, we have Muskrat Falls, and we have all of the issues now surrounding it, all these major delays and cost overruns, where we certainly heard the former chair of the board of Nalcor before he left. You can recall the emails that were released where he was talking about former board members and where he was, convinced that it was conflicts of interest that were taking place. And I continue to get calls from people who have been involved with that project telling me about things that are going on that they don't think is right. Certainly in one of the social media outlets and blogs there now, there's a story going around from a person who supposedly was an engineer who had worked on the project and quit because of the unethical behavior and allegedly fudging of numbers and that they were putting out, painting a false picture to the public. So I think there are tons of things that need to be looked into at Nalcor, and particularly surrounding all of these cost overruns at Muskrat Falls. And I don't think we should be distracted by this issue now around Mr. Martin. Yes, it's an important issue. It's, $5 or $6 million is a lot of money, but at the end of the day, we're spending billions up at Muskrat, and it seems like we were all given false information about numbers and projections and false assumptions and everything else, and nobody seems to be investigating that.
Paul Lane, we have to leave it there. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Not a problem, Fred. You have a great morning.